Okay, well, let's call to order.
Sorry, I ran away. They started talking in my ear, so I had to go.
Okay.
Alright, that's Karen.
So thanks, Karen, for getting online. Don, what's
Yeah.
pleasure having you here today as a guest.
Yeah, I believe I had sent or expressed interest to Sharon some months ago about joining the committee. So I thought I'd just stop in and see what's going on, see what kind of interests there are, and maybe I can participate in some way or another.
Okay, thanks. Pat, that's not your friend, is it? That's somebody else.
No.
Okay.
My friend's name is Brian Burgess.
And well, we'll get into the new member applications. We'll get in, and then you can chime in on that.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Right now, I have the proposed chair based on the committee vote. So, thank you very much for giving me that opportunity. That's not official until the board has their vote this coming Saturday. There appears to be no problems with that, so I'll probably continue to be the chair. I wanted to if you don't mind, I'd like to try to review some fundamentals to help us focus as a committee. Again, my focus is always going to be what the committee needs and wants and so on. There's no other subject. And so, again, these meetings are recorded. I think technically Ocean Pines posts the recordings online eventually of most of the committee meetings. And then, and what I also hope to do in our meetings is to have consensus, as I mentioned, and so therefore there's going to be probably a little more discussion about the topics that we have. That's going to take time, so therefore we will always stay on agenda. If there's a different subject, we'll have to put it aside. But after the meeting ends, anybody can, I'll hang around if anybody wants to talk to me about this. The fact that not all the members are present right now, I'll say this again next month. But so we can talk about anything after the meeting ends. So anybody who wants to talk to me about something, we can do that after the objectives of the committee. I think every time we become members, we get a copy of this thing. Does this look familiar? Resolution C10, the environmental advisory.
I never got a copy,
Okay.
but I looked it up. So
Okay. I'm not
same
sure
here.
why I have this because it has signatures on it. But I just wanted to highlight just some of the things in here. Again, in general, it's a recommendation for improving the health and vitality of our natural resources. And then it goes on to emphasize the significant implications of the deterioration of quality of bodies of water surrounding ocean currents. So that's the canals as well as St. Martin River. And that the functions that it lists here, again, help maintain the health of the waterways, promote growing conditions for flora and fauna, foster increased awareness of environmental hazards that may impact us, help educate residents to enhance the value and appearance of those properties, help educate residents in Ocean Pines management about the environment. So not only their personal individual resident properties, but a more broad education. And then lastly, help improve the natural beauty of Ocean Pines and other assets as assigned by the board. Just wanted to mention that. I wanted to physically show you the annual report for just what's happened over the last 12 months. There's that page, there's that page, and then there's that page. And these are just summary statements of all this stuff.
Was this what was in the quarterly report, printed in the quarter? No. Okay.
Well, this one was just submitted.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but maybe some, and then this is sort of follow-up and recommendations. All of these recommendations have come out of what we've talked about. But I just want to highlight all the work that you guys have done. And then therefore, Jeff, I wanted to rename this committee. It'll still be ENA, but it's going to be the Environmental Non-Slacker A Team. Okay. So you guys are work so much on that stuff.
The article in the quarterly report was pretty good too. I
That,
mean,
actually, that was my,
Yeah.
since it was
That's-
supposed to focus, that issue was supposed to focus on safety.
Mhm.
So I kind of made it tweaked how we commit, it contributed to the safety of the community.
Okay, because it was, I thought, this is good, and it was long, so
Hopefully it was truthful.
it sounded truthful to me. Yeah.
And it wasn't very way back in the newsletter, behind the ads, it was like.
Yeah.
up front.
Yeah.
Of course, we're important, right?
All right, now, so technically right now, we have one opening in this committee. And so therefore, applications have come in, before new applications, I did get a renewal from you, Ann.
Mhm.
Now, I can't do anything with that now until I am the so-called chair.
Okay,
So as soon as that's official, I'll continue to process your renewal.
Okay.
And then also, there's a renewal from
Karen.
Karen.
yeah.
Is that right, Karen?
I actually already got my approval, so that's already done.
Oh, super. I guess Sharon took care of that.
Yeah, I think it was one of the last things she was able to do.
Okay, good. All right, good, super. But then we have one opening. And I think we've got at least 2, maybe 3 new member applications. And so did you see those? or-
Yes, so they come in through Linda, the executive secretary, from, I guess, info@oceanpines.org, and they come to me. Now, I could have endorsed them, but I chose not to. I'd rather the new chairperson do that. So it's going to delay it a month, because you'll be the official
Right.
chairperson after Saturday. So I told Linda, don't put those on the board of director agenda for this board meeting, because I want you to do that,
Okay, thanks.
not me.
And Don, just by the way, Jeff is our liaison to the board of directors. He is on the board and the liaison for this committee. And then I think the next step is, once I get those applications, I mean, if they generally look good, I could say, okay, they're all acceptable. Is that how it works?
Well, I believe you all, if you have one opening, you have to endorse one person and submit that through me to the board of directors.
Okay.
Over and above mine, it's not really an opening, just a little.
Correct. Yours is the simple renewal. And I think it's just for 1 year.
Yes,
That's your-
it is. It's Karen and I both.
Yeah,
We're in our last leg.
that's going to be a sad day when you 2 guys end your membership. But, okay, well, we'll see how that goes. So as soon as I get those from you,
Mhm.
if I can, in time-wise, I'm going to try to interact with you guys on who we want to select for that. So Don, just, by the way, so just by chance, you don't happen to get the first cut, because it's got to be, however we all feel the things should fit in. I'm sorry that we don't have more openings to make sure all applicants can get in, but we'll try to be very balanced on how we look at those things.
Right.
Okay.
When I had expressed interest to Sharon, I believe I did put an application in along with my resume. And she was supposed to be holding on to that. So is my resume one of the ones which is being considered?
Do you
I remember Don's name being here.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing a resume with it. I just saw the form.
Okay.
Well,
Should-
Don, you could go ahead and email me your resume if you want.
Okay.
And it's Golfer Tim, as in the sport. Simple Golfer Tim. Not that I'm proud of that, but
Golfer Tim at,
yahoo.com.
Okay.
Okay. All right, new member applications. All right, lastly, I wanted to talk about our communication with media. So recently, I think Patty, well, actually what happened,
It started with her article
Yeah.
that was in the quarterly report,
yeah,
and that was mentioned.
yeah, exactly. And then the person from Bayside Gazette contacted you,
Cindy.
and Cindy, and asking what's the status of that. And that was about the gear tubes at the pond.
Right.
And so you didn't talk to anybody.
Oh, I did.
Okay, well, who did you contact?
Cindy Hoffman emailed me
Okay,
and said she had read about the disposal units, and she had gotten my name. I thought it was from Pat, but it was from Jeff. And she asked if I would sit down and talk to her about those
Fishing lines.
fishing line disposal units.
okay, and did you
I did.
discuss that?
I did.
And you were just simply discussing the tubes. And
Exactly.
what we're going to try to do with that. There was no other purpose or promise made about the tubes, that we were hoping to put those out there, and it still has to get some kind of approval.
She asked about the Route 90 pond, and unfortunately, one of the things that I said 3 different times did not get in there, which was Public Works has done a good job. We were looking at the south pond, the second Route 90 pond, and Public Works, we put in a list and they did a great job of taking care of things. So I was trying to
Give them a pat on the back.
give them a pat on the back from this
Right.
committee. Yeah, but it was just very specific to
Yeah.
how that came to be that I made those things.
Okay, and just by the way, if there's any document that I write up, an annual report or whatever, or minutes, we'll keep that idea in mind of giving appreciation to whatever department helps us out.
Yeah,
Okay, so it wasn't any kind of official communication with the media. It was, Cindy emailing a couple people, and then she's contacting you to clarify. And also, it's been several months, but she used to come to this meeting and sit down and observe.
they publish on Wednesday. They do their final copy on Wednesday. So she said she has come to these meetings, but she just can't make Wednesdays because that's their sunrise to sunset hard push day.
So it's hard for her to come to the meeting.
And I apologize. I didn't until this very, very moment think about that. I should have reached out and reached out to you or and then you to Jeff about that, because I just it didn't even cross my mind.
Well, I really don't see that much any different from her having to sit in on our meeting and finding out what's going on. But
I think the difference is more people would hear the conversation. The only caution I have is that a couple of months ago, Cindy Hoffman wrote an article in the Bayside Gazette that had a very misleading headline, to the point where Sharon contacted the publisher and said, this is not accurate. And I'm not sure where Cindy got this. I mean, she got it from being at one of our meetings. So Sharon had complained to the publisher, and I think I can't remember his name right now, but he did something to change that. I worked in the media in this area for 15 years, and in a finance role, but still I knew the news people and everybody up at the Daily Times and all the meetings. I'm always sensitive about people representing an organization in a one-on-one where you are the only person, you are talking to Cindy, and nobody else, hears what was said. because news, you know, reporters can misinterpret things, reporters can mislead things, and reporters carry a lot of weight you know, they publish in products that everybody reads. So, you know, I would just personally, if I were being contacted by one of those newspaper people, I would not have a conversation with them unless you were sitting there with them.
Okay.
You know,
All right, well, and that's a good thing to review and to talk about those points. I think in practical, if they happen, let's just say Cindy calls one of us up and say, hey, what's the status of this? I think you can, you know, just give a couple matter of the fact things instead of saying, I can't speak to you, you need to speak to somebody else. That's a little bit, I think, too abrupt. And, but I think we can, as a committee, just give us, you know, please control yourselves. I have to control myself and don't go, you know, off into opinion, but I think we can, just to help communicate our issues, give a couple matter of fact things. And for example, the gear tubes would be, well, we have our proposal, we submit it, and we're waiting for approval. That's no big deal.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
So, you know, you all as members of this committee are official representatives of Ocean Pines, and just to support what you say, any official stance on any item needs to really come from Rick Farr. So I think the best advice is, listen, Cindy can come in here and sit all she wants. Cindy can watch this video.
Right.
And get all the information she wants. So I know she has a hard time getting here Wednesday. She can watch this video and extract whatever information she'd like to report on. And if she wants further information, like she did contact me, and I said, listen, you know, I first off, I don't have any information on that. And if I did, it needs to come from Rick. And Rick would be fine as our president to provide that information. He just wants, it needs to be from the official representative of the association.
Now, just by the way, I asked Sharon about, are there any special rules or whatever? Her first answer was no. Because I don't think there's any official guidelines or rules that spells all that out. I think as a community, you know, because of the problem that you mentioned, we need to make sure we have all our facts in a row and not to add anything. So I think we still can give the very limited matter of fact information if we're directly contacted, because, you know, we want to you know, talk about what the committee is doing and to get credit for what we actually do. But that would be a brief conversation. The next step is, you know, I guess they have to contact, who would be the next person?
I mean, Cindy could contact any of us.
There's actually a section in the bylaws that says, it's under the committee general policy part. It says, unless specifically directed by the board in writing, no committee member shall represent or claim to speak for the Ocean Pines Association to any community, organization, entity, or group.
Okay.
Very good. So you know, if she does contact, which is great, we want Cindy to report on the good things that you all do, but let's just do it in the official way and say, listen, Cindy, you really need to speak to Rick. And if somebody does reach out to you, you know, contact me. I'll have a conversation with Rick. Say, listen, what's the subject, and I'll get them all the information.
Who is the official media relations person for OPA? Is there such a person?
That I don't know, but if the official person for anything going outside to the media needs to be the president.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody, a reporter just calls you personally, you could always say, well, I can tell you off the record that this is something that we're discussing, but would have to go up the chain of command to give you an official
If you want
statement.
further information, hey, we're doing this great thing on disposal of fishing line. You can see that, you know, that's what we have talked about in our community. But if you want additional information on how the association feels about it, contact Rick.
Well, and I mean, Cindy is a good reporter as far as I can tell. The mistake that or issue that she made with the headline, I'm not sure how that happened, but a good reporter is also going to continue, like it's easy to engage you in a conversation about something you specifically are aware of and know about, and were kind of the promoter of the fishing line thing. But often reporters will then go into well, can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? And it's really easy to have that conversation then.
Well,
You know,
I just want to say, I've had extensive PR training. I was number 2 spokesperson when there was the lead in the drinking water crisis in Washington, DC 20 years ago or whatever. So I've had extensive, I mean, I know those tricks. I just want to say that. But my question, how did she get my name?
Off the website, probably.
It wasn't in the website. It said a member of the committee.
No, but I mean, our committee is listed, so how did you know it was you?
How did she know it was me?
Somebody else?
Well,
named her?
I mean, it's not
I don't
just
know.
the video that's put up there. It's all, I think, either the agenda or the minutes also gets posted
Yeah.
up on Ocean Points.
Right.
And that's how we
She
write
probably
our
got it,
minutes.
yep.
Patty Gamby was, displayed this thing.
Maybe she watched the video when you brought the prototype.
I didn't bring it. I missed that meeting.
I picked it up.
Okay.
I really have had very little.
We gave you credit because
Yeah.
you did do it.
Yeah.
You did work.
So fairness to Cindy, reporters don't usually write the headlines. It's the editor that
Right.
decide, and
Yeah.
they might pick out something sensational to make sure they
Yeah.
get readers. So
and that's true, whether it is for Bayside Gazette. I mean, it was for the Daily Times, but.
Right, I mean, yeah, I don't know
smaller
how
newspaper,
professional they are, but that would normally be the case.
Yeah.
Well, I think the point is, if we do get contacted, the conversation is going to be very brief. You can probably say, yeah, we submitted a proposal to the board and we're waiting on that. And then otherwise, and then the next comment would be, please contact Rick Parr. He'll have the exact status or the backup for it. Other than them going on the website and seeing our meeting documents. I mean, that's the other way they can do that. Okay, I don't think we have a particular problem. That's just something that came out lately.
Again, I apologize. I thought it was going to come out as a good thing
Yeah.
because I talked about our relationship with the Anglers Club and working together, and did get a couple of, unfortunately, they didn't print it about Public Works and doing things. So, but message
Well,
received.
Yeah, I mean, there's no apology needed, Patty. It's
No, I got it.
we're
I
kind of,
understand.
well, all of us are kind of stuck in a little position, and unfortunately, that's what we had to do. I'm glad that this is a good example to help us learn how we need to do it.
When was this article?
Was the last week's,
Last week's Gazette,
Okay, I actually haven't read it.
page 12.
nice photo.
Nice photo.
Okay.
I had on my Navy mom sweatshirt.
But just to let you know, that article didn't cause any kind of problem.
No.
It was good promotion.
It was, Jeff happened to email Rick in the latest follow-up, and then Rick said, only the board can communicate. It wasn't the article. So, all right, so we'll see how we can manage that. All right, well, that was my general comment. So it will get to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I moved to approve.
Okay, thank you. And
I'll second.
second by Richard.
Hey, one thing about the meeting approval or meeting minutes approval. I showed up at the administration building on Monday because if you look at the bottom, it tells you when the next meeting is from the September meeting. And it said the meeting was on October 23rd. So that's why I was there on Monday.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Definitely. Yeah, sorry about that, Don. It's
Yeah.
every fourth Wednesday.
Yeah, no problem.
Unless it happens to be in November and we're gonna be talking about that. And so it's every fourth Wednesday. That was an error in their thing. Okay, and then a motion to approve the minutes from September 27th. So, as my former client used to say, I just hear crickets.
I'll make a motion.
With the exception of the date mistake correction.
Right.
Yeah.
And then,
I'll second.
okay, all right, before we get into the actual meeting agenda, is there any other public comments? Don, you can say anything at this time. Jeff can say anything at this time. Is any other issues? Okay, all right, unfinished business. And so in unfinished, well, what we're gonna keep listed here is anything that's not finished. And so we've got the South Pond erosion plan. So the grant from Maryland Coastal Bay was approved, but the next step that goes to EPA. So we're waiting on that. So you're probably gonna see this thing here.
For a good long time.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, not years, but okay, to get that final federal funding approval. I bet you if the continuing resolution is not approved again in mid-November, that would probably even further put it in delay. Because I'm sure that is directly tied to the budget process in the federal government. There's no, unless that particular funding is already like a, approved grant for 5 years or something like that. In other words, the funding actually exists already, but that could have an impact too. Habitat modification. I think the tributaries did submit a proposal for that. And then again, we're waiting from Ocean Pines administration on the accepting of that proposal and the budget that work. And that's to put certain habitat vegetation around the pond at certain locations in the pond. Right, Jeff? I don't know if you, and I think that was on one of the lists that Sharon gave me, that item. Okay, so
These are the people that work in.
the park.
Right.
All right, in the past, we talked about the duck signs and a plan for maintaining those. In the last meeting, we talked about, well, maybe we could take care of it ourselves. And I think the other ideas was, well, we'll just leave them there. Don't worry about trying to move them around seasonally, but just keep them up all year round. I think that's what we concluded. And then, but how we can work together to keep those things up.
I don't know how many times I have to drive over and take one of the signs and lying on the ground and put it back up again.
Yeah, I
That's
had to do that this week. The one that was on 589 in front of the small pond.
Yeah.
First, I drive by, so where is it? Then I found it was flat on the ground, and I don't know if that's done by
Is that
people
by
mowing.
Taylor's? You're talking
Yeah,
about by Taylor's? Yeah, I don't know how many times I parked in Taylor's parking lot and walked back.
Well, first of all, if you put it up too high, there's a slope there, and it's not going to stand up.
I don't know. Well,
But
'cause I
again,
was the one that originally put them all up.
okay, well, I don't know if it's mowers, is that
Yes,
Ocean Prime's property, or is it the little shopping
State Park.
centers?
Shopping center.
the mowers guys are the ones that constantly,
But
Knock
that's what
them down.
I'm wondering, which mowers? Are they mowers? Is that Ocean Pines property,
I don't know.
or is it somebody else's property?
All I can tell you is that when you can look at that grass and see it's recently been cut, and 90% of the time that sign will be flat.
Yeah, when I picked up that sign, it had grass clippings on both sides, That was another thing I wanted to mention. The signs need to be cleaned occasionally. I had noticed the one that's close to the Southgate Fire Station.
Yep.
Had either somebody had thrown something at it, or I just took something over there and wiped it down, but just, that's another maintenance thing that I think we have to take on as a committee.
Yeah, I think when it went down, when it was put down or blew down in that last storm we had, whoever put it back up, when we drove past it, I saw that there was some dirt on the bottom of it, but we were headed.
Couldn't get it all off, but I got most of it off.
Yeah,
So-
I saw that it had been cleaned. Now, the one that's not on our property,
The bank,
yeah, that's flat on the ground. I thought it was missing, but I drove past the bank.
I didn't notice that one.
Yes,
Well,
it's flat.
it was back up late yesterday afternoon.
Okay.
So maybe the
all
bank
right.
people are helping with that. The other one by the library always seems to get set on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Anyway.
Oh, because when they cut the yard. 'cause
They-
I talked
that's
to
where
them
they
about-
put it.
Yeah, they put it there and they just said,
Well, it's better
and
to throw it
very
out.
rarely does anybody walk on that sidewalk anyway.
But
It's just a corner.
are those signs weatherproof?
I think they are.
Yeah.
Okay,
They actually have a plug there. And the plug is so you can put sand in there.
right,
Or water.
yeah.
And, but I'm telling you, they're heavy as it is.
Yeah.
And to try and get the sand in there I tried to put some sand in there. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And putting water in there to me is a major mistake because as soon as you start to get to the freezing temperatures,
Yeah.
once, if that, water freezes, it's gonna expand and
Yeah.
break the sign.
So-
Yeah,
As an alternative, then we agreed we'll just be on the lookout for fallen signs
Yeah.
and
Well,
Yeah.
and also the other people that work in Ocean Pines and take care of the properties. I suggested if they see it down, why can't they also pick it up and, put it back up again? It doesn't have to be just a few people. It can be the whole,
help us maintain our duck crossing signs
Yeah.
effort, maybe. And maybe that-
Yeah. I mean, we could ask, we can't mandate that,
If you see a sign that's fallen down, you don't have to be an
it's
official.
just, we got more
Right,
ducks
right,
than you
right.
shake a stick at.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, well, I guess one thing, Jeff, could you somehow communicate back to Viola to have Public Works kind of help us out with that? I mean, they don't have to do that constantly, but especially if they,
Yeah, say, we're trying to do it, but if they see it, please
yeah,
put them up.
just assist us. I mean, they don't have to take full responsibility, but just, especially if they mow and they lay it down, well, give us a break, put it back up again.
Yeah.
As far as cleaning it, I'm just,
If you see a dirty sign, just go,
well,
get a rag and.
Yeah,
Or wait for it to rain.
yeah, or get a spray, we'll have to get a spray bottle
Oh.
and some rags, but,
Sorry.
well, all right, so. Actually, I want to actually develop a very simple SOP for this. Standard operating procedure on how we're going to take care of the duck signs. So we talked about a couple of things, and one thing, as far as the community involvement, if we ever do any kind of Bay Day table or whatever, that would be one thing we could talk about or display to give some of the signs. But I mean, how else? I mean, is it always going to be on John and Patricia and Patty to take care of the signs, or how would you?
I'm part-time, so I can't commit to, full sign
I'm
adoption.
not gonna be here in December, most of the month. I won't be able to do it.
Appeal to the community at large, like.
I'm just trying to think should I, at least once a month, plan on driving around and checking it out? Or one of us that does that.
I drive around all the time, a couple times a day.
Well,
It's a consistent battle.
well, by the way, thank you very much, John.
Well, I guess my point was there are certain areas, especially out by the Southgate Pond and areas like that where they do the mowing and then the people put the sign back up.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot easier for them in the mower to do it than it is for me to park and climb down a hill and find it and then put it back up and then come back out again.
I mean, yeah, the reality is we don't ask Public Works to do much here, that signs came in and they stuck them in your car and we drove around, and put them up
Yeah.
and, so we don't ask Public Works to get involved. Other than that would be an easy thing for them to do.
Okay.
Yeah, what do we have? 10 of them, right?
8.
Eight?
Tim, what if we do like
Probably 10.
twice a year, spring and fall, have somebody assigned to go around and assess, make sure the sign's still in good shape. In addition to what we're doing, addressing it when we see it, but have like, the 1st of April and the 1st of whatever, 6 months later. And then that would be a time to take your spray bottle and do any cleaning that needs to be done, spiff it up a little. So, I think monthly is probably a lot, but maybe quarterly or twice a year to have it on the calendar. And, I can say, I got it this quarter and you got it next quarter, and it would just be a very specific thing with it, as
Yeah.
opposed to bring it, and then still keep doing what we're doing.
Right. In other words, if anybody drives by and they happen and they have some time, go ahead and
Yeah.
take it. But well, that's a good idea. It sounds like my coffee club I used to be in. Every person had a month, but yeah, quarterly sounds
I
good.
think
So
quarter.
that in that SOP, I'll try to organize something with, say, okay, you've got it for the next 3 months and so on. For whoever happens to live in Ocean Pines the majority of the year. Patricia, you're probably going to be our random backup person.
Right.
When you see something, you'll take care of it, but we wouldn't, it sounds like we would not want to assign you a quarter.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll keep that in mind.
And the other thing to keep in mind is any emergency. I mean, if God forbid, they're predicting a Category 5 hurricane is coming our way, it's probably a good idea to put those signs down.
Okay,
Yeah, and unfortunately, that does occasionally happen around.
okay, so hurricane, or one,
Yeah, but anything
Super
more
storm.
significant wind.
that would be part of your quarterly assignment.
The other
The
thing,
other thought we had was, in the wintertime, a lot of the geese are gone. And they, and they really don't need those signs up, and you got the snow and everything. And the thought then was to have them picked up and put in storage, right at one of the Ocean Pines facilities. And then once we come back to spring, put them back up again.
I thought we had decided to let them stay up. Maybe we'll see how it goes this time around, and if there's a lot of issues, rethink it.
Well, I mean, John, that would be nice,
Yeah.
Perfect word.
but it sounds like,
Well, they have a cart and they can drive on the grass. So, they don't park and then carry it like we did. Remember?
yes,
I think our impression is, we need to be very gentle with the Public Works Department as far as asking them to do something.
Maybe, it might be worth it to get Mr. Viola's opinion. He's the one that ordered these signs, and I really don't know how much they were because he ordered them and they paid for them. And if he would prefer that they get stored by Public Works, that's kind of different than if we make that preference now.
Okay, there's another question for you, Jeff.
Got it.
Yeah.
To try to get
Ju-
back.
If Mr. Viola doesn't have an opinion, fine, but if he does, we need to respect it.
Yeah, right. In other words, if the signs happens to be a burden for Public Works to spend that time, if it's the twice a year, basically, we're talking about,
Yeah.
taking them down, storing them, and then putting them back up again. If that's a burden, that's okay. We'll take care of it, but that it would be nice if we can do that.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely this SOP is going to be evolving because we're going to see what works and what doesn't work and so on. Okay. SOP. All right, on to, so I just wanted to highlight the 4 issues that Sharon had passed on and that were previously submitted over the last few months. But there wasn't really any kind of final conclusion. And some of this I've already talked about, again, the shoreline remediation. We have to start planning for that. Now, I don't think the board needs to do anything yet. I mean, the next step is getting that funding approval, and then we got to take the next steps after that, as far as implementing that. We did put in that recommendation for the gear tubes, and I guess we just need an approval for that. And Patty, you mentioned, I'm kind of hitting the next subject, that you would be willing to manufacture how many tubes we can put out, if that's 2 or 4 or whatever,
Right.
but you need to be compensated for that stuff.
I don't have, I'm fine with paying for the one that I've
Yeah.
constructed. I'd rather not pay for 4 of them.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that was,
because that'll be at least $50 plus of PVC tubing and so on.
well, it's about, it says 36, but it was actually about $34 worth of, for one tube. Yeah.
And it's
Which isn't, I mean, it's not
for one.
for one. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
not 4.
No, right.
So anyway, we need to get the okay for that, and then therefore that we would need some kind of, if it is approved, say 4, because I think the Anglers Club, they thought it was a good idea, and it sounded like maybe 4 around the pond would be okay.
Well, and when I did the layout, I put them, I did it so that if we only wanted, if the decision was 1, put the 1 here. If the
Yeah.
decision was 2, put it here and here. So I put them in order of priority. So, if you don't, it's not a very big pond, but if you have them closer, they're more likely to be used. Of course, that means you have to, we need a maintenance plan too, which is very easy to do, but we'll get to that when we get to the,
That would be another SOP we'll put together.
yeah.
As far as like, in other words, the person stuck with the signs has to do tubes too or something. Okay, so so we need to kind of resolve that. I think that would be good. Information signs, again, we submitted some kind of recommendation for that, right, Patty?
We have not, because I was moving along and then Pat and I walked around the area and kind of jointly came to the conclusion that we needed to do some improvements or have some other things done. And that was when Public Works did the bridge.
Okay.
And it's interesting that another point was the side of around the pond where the houses on offshore back up. And a friend of mine went by on his bike and he asked me if that was Ocean Pines property, can people walk back there? And I said, yes, that's
Yes.
part of the pond. So that's still, we talked about blazing the trail through there or somehow making that look more like a trail as opposed to somebody's backyard. So I think we need to double back on that. But then there's the whole idea of the signs got sidelined. And as I've thought more about it, what I'm thinking now is a sign at the parking area. It could be sufficient as opposed to doing all the signs through if there's no funding, but we do need to go back and revisit that when.
Yeah, and my question on that whole thing is, are we stepping on the toes of Parks and Recreation? Because I think that's their jurisdiction. So maybe we need to meet with them to talk about these ideas. Like, I don't know, Patty, I would be willing, you and I,
Yeah,
since
yeah.
we came up with it, just to see if they would endorse what we're suggesting. We went ahead and reported on the safety issues and Public Works corrected them.
Right.
But that's, that was probably, it's not our jurisdiction.
Right.
I'm also the liaison for Parks and Rec.
Oh, perfect.
So every month they walk a park,
Ah,
and every month they submit a list of potential safety items, improvement items. So I would highly recommend you will do exactly what you just suggested. Get with the Parks and Rec chair
And do this jointly.
Yeah.
Okay, who wants to contact Park and Rec? Should I contact them or?
I think it should come from the chairperson.
Okay. contact the chair, talk about that, and,
And once you make the contact with the chair, if you want to go down from there, you can give them my name and contact information since I'm full-time, and then I'll coordinate with Pat.
and by the way, in the recommendations in the annual report, I mentioned there was overlap of responsibility of the natural assets with marine activities, the Art Committee, and Recs and Parks Committee.
Mhm.
It would be beneficial if there was periodic communication between these committees and the board to help facilitate common issues of concern. I think one of the ideas that John had was that the chairs of those committees, have that annual meeting board or something, or some kind of coordination, more interaction of these committees where have overlap of responsibilities. Karen had brought up at the annual meeting about dumping of debris in the canals, and I happened to read this in the newsletter by word. The response was the state at Maryland DNR deals with that problem of pollution of the canal. So therefore, I guess then we don't do anything ourselves. Or as part as the resolution, we can educate. And so that, yeah, maybe we don't physically enter the canals and do anything about it, but maybe as a future thing, this idea popped in my head, maybe we could start putting signs out at the head of these canals and say, don't pollute, or something like that. Just like when they used to put the stamps on the storm sewers.
Sewers,
that
the bay.
This is the headwaters of the Chesapeake Bay or whatever. That's something that we could try to do to help make a difference. But there's an example how there is overlap, and then the marine activities themselves, they can talk about how to maintain your boat when you're next to the water, and don't overfill your gas tanks and things like that. But okay. All right, the last issue was planting new trees in White Horse Park, year by year, where we take 3 by 3. And so it's not going to be White Horse Park anymore, it's going to be White Horse Lot. So if we can help the next generation enjoy what we enjoy, is to start planting. I don't think they got a bunch of trees marked over there. I don't think they've cut them yet. But it's typically it's a big red X, and I think there's a big R on there, which may mean remove, and some other symbols like that. But it looks like it's in the works. Okay, well then let's, and again, most of those are damaged, diseased trees. Unfortunately, it appears that we don't get trees much older than 100 years around here. Just the very special ones. But so it'd be nice to find out if they agree to our recommendation and to plant some new trees back in the park. Okay, we talked about the gear tubes.
If I could just, before we leave that,
Yeah.
it just popped into my head. We probably could put 2 at the Route 90 pond as well.
Gear tubes?
Yeah, there are quite a few fishermen over there, and they have worked their way through the woods, and there are some really specific spots so I'd say 2 over there would be useful as well if we go with them.
Again, if you can hopefully have a nice conversation, Jeff, at convention man too. The other, I think, Patty, you brought this up. So as far as the Route 90 pond is, I just mentioned one thing, is strategies beyond the signs and the footbridge maintenance. But again, that would probably be maybe a park and rec collaboration. But that's something you mentioned, and that's why I had it here.
Yeah, the low hanging fruit there is blazing the trail. So there's a lot of, offshoots of it, and also just letting people know that, yes, you can walk, the trail continues behind these homes. It's not their property.
Yeah.
So that's something that could be done easily on a weekend.
And when we sent that in, we told Sharon, and I think she included this, that we would be willing to assist in doing that or even do it, because Pat looked up the
Procedures for.
procedures for blazing. So
Blue.
Well, okay, it sounds like that particular subject is something that'll be a project for us to try to put together over the next few months and to get something, to make something happen with that. But it's, in other words, it's going to be on our agenda to do something with that pond, blazing trails, getting signs out there or whatever.
but
In
that
coordination.
in
with
coordination,
Park and Rec
right.
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Sharon wanted me to, the goose egg adley. She didn't get any follow-up if that act physically was done in the spring of this past spring to control the geese around the pond. That's apparently a very highly effective thing. You got to hire somebody to do that, to control those geese. Did that happen?
And we kind of thought maybe it did, because we did see less babies. There were a few, but less than we have in past years. But we didn't have any confirmation that it was addling versus some natural predator or something, that made a difference.
Yeah.
As much as I love babies and they're very cute, but we have to control the population.
Yeah.
Again, going back to my water days, that was something that we did religiously at the water treatment plant, because we had lots of water and lots of geese. And it is very effective, but it's effective over time if you do it every year. So if they're going to do it, they should understand that that's really how it works.
And whoever does it needs to do it the right way.
Right.
It isn't just finding.
Just going out and, right.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is, does Public Works already plan that? Are they doing that? Or the initiative here is to get them to plan that and budget it to get that company to do that kind of thing. So, okay. All right, okay, new business. Patricia mentioned nuts about acorns. What's up with that?
Well, as some people have already noted, Jeffrey, this is a mast year, which is mast is a terminology used for wildlife food. So ancient. So everyone's probably noticed there's many more acorns than usual.
How often does that happen?
They say maybe every 4 or 5 years, so it's not an unusual thing, and there's no explanation about why it happens. It just happens, and it's not just acorns. It's any tree that might produce nuts. We probably have walnuts around here. Hazelnuts, walnuts, hickory. So if you have any of those other nut trees, you might notice they have also put out a lot of seed. So the Department of Natural Resources has a tree nursery near Cambridge, and they collect acorns. We're too late to do it this year, but that might be something. There probably won't be as many next year, but something we could do or promote as a committee. It seems that their requirements are kind of strict, like they have to be in some kind of a sack, a cloth sack or something, and then they can be brought to the tree nursery, which it's named after somebody, I forget who, but it's not that far from Cambridge or us. So that was one idea. But the other thing is Maryland has an initiative called 5 Million Trees. They want to plant 5 million trees in the state by 2031. So in order to accomplish that, they're offering communities trees. So these are saplings, okay? They're not, you can't afford to, mature trees are expensive.
So sapling is literally just.
Depends on the tree.
But too high.
Yeah, so that's why they collect acorns, because they're, particularly the white oaks are very popular, are very good tree to have around here. But we could actually, if Ocean Ponds wanted to get involved in that, they could request trees from the nursery. Also, individual homeowners can buy trees. You can get a $25 coupon by going to the DNR website off of a tree, and they have partner nurseries that sell them. And Bluebird, right on 589, would be one of them. That's the only one I think in Worcester County. So I think it's the other thing I want to promote is, if Ocean Pines is going to be planting replacement trees, to focus on native species. I have been very dismayed by the condition of the Machino cherries that were planted around the Southgate Pond. They have not fared well. They're a very, delicate tree, but we have native flowering cherries that could be used there. Or I know that our president had been quoted saying he wanted to see more flowering trees. Let's try to make those native trees that we could probably get for free from the DNR, and they'll do better here. But so. And just to follow up on that, because it kind of touches on the next item, I think that would be a good thing to write about in our next article about the 5 Million Trees Initiative, and make the community at large aware that they can get these trees.
I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah.
And also what to do with all your acorns next year.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's a good article subject. We could talk about the coupon that and to encourage residents to plant these saplings and whatever. As far as the nut collecting, I mean, we can mention that. I mean, again, it's they will collect some nuts. They couldn't put it in a plastic bag.
No, there are some specifics. I have to say that the DNR website is extremely difficult to navigate and to find things. But if you want to simply find the most complete, comprehensive information on this, just go to it and search 5 Million Trees, Please. That's the name of a PowerPoint they have in there that kind of explains the whole program. So 5 Million Trees, Please. Otherwise, just finding it is like, where is this stuff?
Yeah. I mean, so obviously you would help write that article. So you want to start taking notes now that you could put that, because then the article request, I think, comes in, I don't know, February or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's for March release. I think it's the first one.
And so we could have that ready by then.
Yeah, I've already done a lot of the research, so
yeah,
probably
exactly. You could put
easily write that
the
up.
web link, and then these benefits of the coupon and collecting nuts or whatever. But again, this is we're probably going to have to follow up with this. It sounds like another project that we want to pursue in some fashion. We would put it, if we do a table, we would definitely talk about that. I don't think this is going to take care of our park issues, because I think the park, we need something more established nursery tree to replant. If we're really doing something more. The sapling, I mean, if we had to, we could do it. But the sapling thing, I think, is more of a broad, let's regreen Ocean Pines kind of subject. I mean,
well, I'm just saying, if you can get trees for free, even if they're saplings, why would you go out and pay for them? As a community, I'm just always, how can we save money? And, some trees grow really fast. As we know, pines grow very fast, but you can have all the baby ones that are in my yard right now. To pull them up, but
well, I mean, that's fine. We can do saplings, but if we're going to maintain the environment of White Horse Park, I mean, as these trees cut down, we need to have something that's going to be able to replace them at least to some reasonable degree within 10, 20 years. A sapling is going to take longer. Right?
Yeah, but like consider that the cherry trees by the Southgate Pond, they were, fairly large specimens. They aren't,
right.
They can grow to 10 feet tall, but something like, I mean, you can't, to get a tree like that, it's an incredibly difficult and expensive operation. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if it's practical to ask for mature trees to replace mature trees. Or
well, I'm not saying mature, but just something. in other words, a 5 foot high tree from a nursery. I
That's
think,
about what the size of those cherry trees were.
yeah, I think the answer is yes. Well, if we can get sapling, let's put them out there, but I think to maintain the environment of the park, to also have some real nursery trees. I mean, do you agree with that idea? I mean, should we just go? I mean, if they can afford to buy some nursery trees, great, let's do it, and let's put them in the park. Meanwhile, yeah, let's put a bunch of saplings out there also.
I
mean,
agree.
Okay,
I think we should absolutely do the saplings, but knocking down these mature trees, that's kind of standard in land development, 1-for-1. You
Right.
knock one down, you plant one to replace it, but we can do that and the saplings as well.
Is there a list somewhere of native, native flowering trees?
Sure, on the DNR website, if you can find it.
I mean, native.
I think the best thing is just to search generally flowering trees native to Maryland, and you might come up to the DNR website, or it might be a
I'm
nursery.
pretty sure crepe myrtles is one of them.
Oh, I got about 100 of them in
No?
my yard.
I went to a seminar Monday in Easton on native plants and trees.
Uh-huh.
And I mentioned that I planted a crepe myrtle and I went, that's not.
It's not a native.
No.
Really?
No, they do very well in our
They do
climate, but they're
great.
not a native.
They don't do great in north, like in Baltimore,
yeah.
north, but they do great down here.
I have a list of native trees and plants from that seminar, and I can more than happy to give it to you.
Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be
then maybe
great,
you
yeah.
could share that with me so I can
Sure.
put it in the article too.
Actually, I mean, a while ago, I researched on native trees because I wanted to put them in my yard. And I don't know if it's DNR's publication, but there is another one, like Chesapeake region native trees and bushes
Hmm.
or then shrubs or whatever. So there's an actual, 5-page publication with with a full table of trees and shrubs that are native to the Chesapeake region. So I have that at home. I don't have a web link for it, but I have a hard copy of that. If you did a simple search for that, you could probably find it pretty quick. And don't go through DNR.
Well, you can, it'll probably pop up in your search, but if you went to the site, where's that list?
But good luck with getting that, but it'd probably be faster just simply trying to look up native habitat for Chesapeake region or Eastern Shore or whatever. Because I'm sure when they have Bay Day, I bet you Maryland Coastal Base has a copy of it sitting on their desk or something. So that exists. I mean, it's in the. I sent you guys the annual report, and I did list some of those in there because I think I went to that publication and I looked up native trees, so you can see some of the. I did a sort of a synopsis of the tree genera, not necessarily every species in that, but okay. So that's something that we're going to plan on this year to really look into that. I don't think there's anything we can do right now, Patricia, as far as acting on it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that's going to go into the article whenever that's needed. Again, a subject that's been brought up was turtle sanctuaries, especially in, I think in the Route 90 pond. Again, that was brought up before. I don't know where we are with that, or if that's something that's that we need to talk about in follow-up meetings to actually implement that. And typically that's some kind of a platform that the turtles can escape to encourage their habitat.
Wasn't one of our suggestions just to move some of fallen trees into the waterway so the turtles can gather there? They don't need a fancy platform necessarily, but since we have
Well,
lots of fallen trees.
that came up when they had cut down the
Mhm.
trees for the helicopters.
On the south. Gate.
And Sharon came in with a fiberglass or some sort of thing to purchase, and my suggestion was, rather than purchase it, why don't, there's fallen trees around everywhere, why don't we get Public Works to drag some fallen trees over and put them into, because those turtles seem to really like those. But we also did talk about the platforms.
Mhm.
But I think the fallen tree is still something, we don't have to pay anything for it if we can get them to put some trees in the edge of the.
So let's be kind to Ocean Pines and Public Works and stop hitting them with all these budget ideas. And so maybe, well, Patty, do you want to maybe write a note to Ocean Pine Pinto and to say, I mean, I wonder if I should do that. I'm trying to think, do we need to say this is from the committee and submit that through you, Jeff? Maybe we'll do it that way. So in other words, just give me like a one-page statement about encouraging turtle habitat. You could write that up for me, Patty, and then I'll get that to Jeff.
And I think we're encouraging it both at the Southgate Pond and Route 90 Pond. I think
Yeah.
because Southgate Pond, some turtles, I think, lost their habitat when they did that, when they did whatever it is they did for the helicopter.
Okay, so that's something we'll act on. All right, the next thing, new project ideas. This is really, again, this is what's been coming out of the work that we've been talked about over the last year, these particular subjects. I just kind of synopsized this. By the way, so the one thing about, we were concerned about a leaf communication accumulations in the swales because they're not doing the vacuum truck anymore. And I was reading the newsletter and there was a question, well, what about the flooding or the backup in the swales? And the response was, well, Ocean Pines will maintain that. If there is a real problem with backup or whatever, they will clean out the ditches. But they only do that where there's a problem. So if there's a real issue, according to the response in the swale, if it's Apollo leaves or whatever that's causing a nuisance, they will go to that location and clear it out. Apparently that's what would happen. To mitigate the fact that they're not doing the vacuum truck removals.
So an individual homeowner has to contact Public Works
Yeah.
and say, please come to my house.
But I thought that the homeowners are responsible for cleaning the ditch leaves. It used to be you could put them on the curb and they would be picked up by Public Works. So now I guess all of that is on the homeowner. I don't think there was
Right.
ever a promise that Public Works would clean your ditches and leaves.
But it sounded like, again, reading that if it's a real bad problem, they will do something about it. If it's just a bad ditch and it's got a bunch of debris in it, they will clean it out because they have to. But that sounds like it. Otherwise, yeah, they're counting on the homeowners to rake the leaves up and remove them and put them in bags. And then Ocean Pines will take the paper bag pulls.
Oh, I thought Republic was picking them up.
So as well as Republic,
Okay.
both will take it. But you're actually, Ocean Pines will take even more.
Mm.
Either drop off or they'll, for that certain period of time, you put the paper bags out, they'll pick them up.
I think the yard is only open for like a month, except for these occasionally. It's open today for some reason. But I mean, I've repeated this concern, but I'm going to repeat it again. Number one, Republic Services does not recycle the yard waste.
Right.
It goes into the trash. You can watch them.
They use it to cover a landfill, that's what else.
Yeah, so B, they've made it, Ocean Pines has made it more difficult for us to take our yard waste to the yard by restricting it and also charging you. Well, I got a sticker for this year, but next year apparently I'm going to have to pay for it. So it's kind of like, well, gee, I think I'll just leave the stuff then and let, you know. So I think they're making it more difficult for us to help keep the community clean and free of debris. So I mean, my suggestions were, can we negotiate a contract with a refuse company that will actually recycle yard waste and not just throw it in a trash truck? I've also noticed Republic Services has been kind of inconsistent with service lately. Like, have you noticed that other people like Tuesday pickup in South didn't happen until like almost 3 p.m.
Oh, we've had,
I've had it where they didn't pick up for days.
right.
Yeah, and
The
they
recycle, they picked up the trash, but the recycled side, they missed completely.
the actual recycling
On
bin.
Friday,
Yeah.
they missed and this happened more than one time, 2 or 3 times, they missed the Friday pickup of the recycle. And then said in their website that if you were missed, you needed to leave it out until the next pickup day, which means
Well,
you
you're
have
not
it
supposed to
sitting in
leave them
front
out.
of your house until Monday or Tuesday.
You're not supposed to do
No,
What-
I know.
What happened was the trash guy picked it up and threw it in the truck.
the cans and the bottles and everything.
I said to him, I said, that's recyclable. And he goes, don't worry about it.
So
And then it was empty, but I'm going, no, there's something just.
So since we do not get to choose who takes care of our refuse, I would think that, this would be something the board should consider the next time the contract comes up. Those are some issues that, I think are concerning to all of us.
All right, Patricia, again, I'm not trying to hit you with a bunch of stuff. Would you like to
Right,
draft a
something I'm
short
sure.
statement and then
Absolutely.
something else we'll submit? Now, just a comment about the recycling bin, I recycle too. I even pull off the plastic wraps on plastic bottles.
And tissue boxes.
But the problem is a tiny percentage of that stuff actually gets recycled and the majority of it goes to the landfill anyway.
Right.
So,
But aluminum and glass are still very desirable recyclable material, as is cardboard, clean cardboard. So,
yeah, I was watching the video about glass. What's that popular fiberglass insulation company?
Bones Corner.
Yeah. Guess where they make most of their fiberglass from?
plastic.
Recycled glass.
Okay.
Tons, they bring in tons of these trucks with the glass. They grind it up and it works out perfect.
I've worked in a lot of glass plants and recycling plants from an environmental standpoint. And the recycling was really a cost saving. It was just amazing what it did, because if you think about making glass, it's pretty expensive. And the energy use is unbelievable. And then the environmental effects, oh my God, they go. And so when you can take the glass and grind it back up and you don't have to go through all those steps, it really saves the glass companies a lot of money. The big deal is you want to make sure it gets clean. That's all. And one of the ways you do it is by grinding it up and melting it back down again. That helps a lot.
All right, we talked about, again, public education. I think over time, this committee will try to, enhance that in some ways. So we'll keep that in mind. Debris disposal in canals, again, that's something in the future. We could have a little project on signs. Don't dispose. I think that's as far as we can go. And lastly, at our last meeting, we had Brenda from Massachusetts Coastal Trust here. I think we had comments that we ought to have more frequent interaction with those agencies. A few of us went to the Coastal Bay benefit or the volunteer little meeting a month ago or so, and they mentioned another agency, I think it's the National Center for Coastal Service, that would be interested in issues that Ocean Pines deals with. And I think if we interact with these agencies more often, they can give us more backup on what we want to do, including the tree issue.
Yeah.
So,
well, I actually sit on the Sierra Club in Coastal Bays, and recently I had to write them a note about the wind farms. And explain to them, their questions that people have, and I just did that yesterday and submitted it to them. But
So I'm trying to get consensus here. So my idea is that we actually have them here once or twice a year at a meeting. To talk to us or talk about what we're trying to work on, how they can help us. How we can help them, because they talked about they wanted volunteers to sample the water. Last month, they can get a grant to put out water testing equipment.
I know most of the time the meetings I have are all Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Because it's down in Southbury, and that's how we usually do it. Once in a blue moon, I'll go down there, but I try not to do that.
Well, so I think, that idea of more frequent interaction officially between our committee and these agencies to actually communicate with them more often, you guys think that's a good idea?
I do, yes.
How about you, Karen? Between your call? She's still on mute. And we lost.
There she is.
Think that's a good
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, sure.
Okay.
I guess we.
Dawn. So I'll start making the contacts, and as far as us working together, especially the water testing, because Estate is ready to go ahead. We'll set up some sample points in Ocean Pines, and that'll be completely consistent with this resolution about improving our waterways. So. Okay, so we'll be doing that. If there's any other ideas or issues, again, we're the 18, we just seem to be full of ideas, and so I don't see any problems with that. But if there's something else, again, you can email me that, all right? Again, like I said, I submitted the FY, I guess, is it a fiscal year? Is that what they call it?
What was the name of it? I can't remember the name of it.
Well,
2023 annual report.
because it's submitted in 23, but it actually reflects everything back to October 22. So it's, to me, that's a fiscal year, but
And the idea is to have an executive meeting with all the chair people, and you get to review that with everybody,
okay. So,
all the other committees,
so wish me good luck.
and the board of
Good
directors.
May the force be with you.
All right, the November meeting, the next fourth Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. So is there an alternate date the following week? I don't know, what do you guys think? Following week would be the 29th.
29th is good with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now it is 29th.
Yeah, I think I can make it.
I'll put that in the minutes if anybody wants to try to check it out. They'll know the date of that. All right, any other issues?
Okay.
This is an article that I wrote on green algae, like you see for the ponds and everything, and it talks about cyanobacteria and all. And I know that this was actually published in one of the local papers, in case you want to consider it, you can see. I actually took pictures. So, yes.
Just want to take the pond in front of Taylor's. Sometimes the fountains are working and sometimes they're not. And
Right.
boy, it has looked, I don't know if it's the green algae, but it looks nasty.
Yeah, well, that pond obviously doesn't have the fountains. If they have the fountains going and they have a really good spray, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
But the other big issue is is the runoff. And especially if they leave, they spray stuff and it gets washed into the ponds, and the ponds.
Oh my gosh. Look at those pictures.
Tim, before we close this, the subject of meeting dates, I know last year I was new to the committee, but there was no December meeting. And also, I don't know if we're gonna have a December meeting, but
And that was actually published in one of the papers.
but also looking ahead, are we gonna stick with fourth Wednesdays, or is there gonna be?
Well, so far, that hasn't hurt me. Does everybody like the fourth Wednesday?
Just good for planning our calendars.
I guess the problem is, as soon as we modify that, that might,
Throw everybody else into.
it might conflict with another committee or who knows what. Apparently, it's been a safe day. December, there was no December meeting last year. Do we want to stick with that? We can talk about it again in November, but.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. But the algae article, I think. Can you email me that, John? That article that you put together?
Well, I can give you a copy. I have 2 copies.
Okay. Because I'm thinking,
It was, to me, the big deal with the pictures that
That's
when you look at the pictures, then it's easier to read it.
There were pictures of Ocean Pines.
Yes,
Yeah,
south,
yeah, I took-
north,
Yeah.
North
I
Pond.
walked around took pictures of them.
show in the north.
I have 2 copies. I don't want to.
What eats algae? Fish.
when it's healthy, the problem is as soon as the thing,
It gets too thick for them to.
that, and when it dies, and then it eutrophies the pond.
I'm sorry, I messed up the.
Doesn't deter the geese, so does it?
This was another article in Minnesota grass clippings. When I read this, I went, that's what's going on. And that's sort of how the whole thing started.
Well, I think that's something that we need to pursue. It's either an educational thing, another article about it, dealing how it impacts our waterways. Because right now, I know people are just, they don't know.
Does that have the land section?
I'm really concerned about Macklin Creek too, after he was here. Now, I'm still private, but I'm not so sure I should be.
I eat crabs out of there.
I have about a dozen ready to be cooked now.
Doesn't cooking them kill the bacteria?
Let's hope so.
We'll see.
Yeah.
So, well, what is the cause of the algae buildup? Is just, is it climate related or?
It's cyanobacteria is one of the issues.
Okay.
All right. And where this really happens is when you get in the warmer weather, it will grow, run off into the ponds, and it gets stagnant.
Okay.
And that's why it helps to aerate it, helps really break it down too, because the oxygen prevents or slows down the formation of cyanobacteria.
Seems like when it doesn't rain, I mean, there is a pond, and I'm not sure, it's like if you're going west on 90 and you want to go south on 113, so you just go to that bridge and then you make the right-hand turn and you make the big, there is a
That's
pond.
stormwater management.
And it's fine unless we have like a month of no rain and then it is covered.
Yep.
And it's so visible that you can't help but look at it. and
This
go,
is
wow,
Northgate.
You know,
Yeah, that's incredible.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Aren't the Northgate ponds, don't they have, aerators in the middle,
They do on the one side of the bridge. That's on the other side of the entrance
And
bridge.
they don't.
And I think it's too enclosed to be able to have effect on it.
Because I know that pond right in front of the Southgate Shopping Center, whatever it's called, Village Center, that there's 2 aerators in that big pond.
That sometimes works,
Sometimes don't. Yeah,
sometimes works.
exactly.
Lately, more often than not,
They're hard to maintain. I
yeah,
understand.
oh, yeah.
I know that on the, right where the Southgate Grill is, they have that outside dock area.
Yeah.
And I go out there and I look at the turtles.
Mhm.
Anytime I'm there, one of the first things to do is go look for the turtles. I haven't seen them recently. And, but then you can also see where you get the cyanobacteria and the things building up. But you also, but there's fish in there and things like that too, so.
So who owns that pond? Is it the people? Is it the
Shopping center?
shopping center? Okay.
All right, well, as usual, the departmental meeting exhausts me. Because we got so much going on. Thinking something, I'll do I'll draft up an SOP as far as the duct sign. I think that was, no one was gonna do that yet. I think, so I'll do that. And then you're gonna do it for a sanctuary statement. Trish is gonna do something on the right roof refuge. And I'll contact Rec and Parks. Again, the Acorn things, I think that's a project in planning, so we'll keep coming back to that. Okay.
Tim, did you want to mention to the others that about Karen Baldwin being ill? Or would she not want to share that?
I think, I mentioned it briefly early on. Yeah, she had, well, everybody wasn't here.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
she had an accident and she had to go to the hospital
Hmm.
because of for an injury. So I'm not sure the status of, she's doing right now. I did follow up with her. The other idea for a committee, I don't think you guys were here yet, is that we all have our addresses so that we could, mail cards when we would like to each other. I think some of us mailed cards to Sharon when she had her
Stroke.
stroke and things like that. I'm gonna email Karen and ask her, how she's doing. Hopefully she's recovered okay.
Mhm.
But
This was Karen Baldwin?
yes, yes. Karen Danner only has the bad cold.
Right.
It looks like she's
Yeah.
But,
And Pat Benner had a
yeah, she's working, yeah.
So do you want us all, did you want us all to send you our preferred mailing addresses? Okay.
Yeah, if you guys can do that. And John, what is MediaCom screwing up your email? What's going on with that?
What's that?
I was trying to send you documents through email and I
Yeah,
couldn't
they had it's finally been worked out, but MediaCom apologized. It was their problem.
did that happen before or is that just something that happened lately?
That's the first time it's ever happened. That's why it was very confusing. It got to the point where I had to call up MediaCom and leave them my phone number and wait for them to call me back. And then they came in and got access to my computer. And once they got access, they found out it wasn't my computer, it was theirs
Mhm.
that was creating the problems. And then once they figured it, fixed it, it took about 24 hours, but now it works fine. I don't have any trouble anymore. That I'm aware of, I don't have any trouble.
That's crazy.
Because I was trying to send him the
And I tried to send
agenda
it.
and stuff and I got kickbacks. I think,
Yeah, I
Patricia
tried.
to.
It's the same thing with the address is correct, but it's just not going through.
It was MediaCom.
Yeah, well,
That was the problem.
And so anyway, I'm glad that's fixed. So yeah, so we'll exchange addresses, I think, just to have that and to send any kind of correspondence to each other to really.
So do you want us to send you
Yeah.
our address and then?
Well, yeah, then I'll make up a table and then I'll send that out to
Okay.
you guys.
But you want it in a digital form.
Yeah,
All right.
so that I can easily email it back and forth. Okay, so hour and a half, I think that's
Record.
a very good meeting time. I hope to get to 2 hours someday.
Oh, no. Maybe when we have guests, we
That's right.
All right, a motion to adjourn.
I move, go ahead.
Move or-
I'll move it. You can.
Okay. Thanks again, Jeff.
Thank you. And I planted 12 of those acorns. I wanted to see how hard it is to grow a tree.
Did you? Did you really plant them?
Cool.
You have the space? Like, to be safe.
No, but I volunteer on a horse rescue farm 2 days a week, 33 acres, so I'll stick on that.
Well, just from the, the saplings I pull up out of my already completely treed lot,
Yeah.
they seem to grow pretty easily. So
I want to
good
see.
luck with that.
So I got 12 of them going.
I take my dog to the dog park over by the pickleball courts. There's acorns all
Oh, yeah.
over that
Nice.
place.
I walk every day. It's
Oh, my God.
When you connect with Karen Baldwin, would you shoot me a message? Because I kind of got to know her pretty well when we were doing the fishing thing and would really be interested in reaching out to her and letting her know if I would just like to know her if she's okay and if you, I don't know if you have an address for her, but.
Yeah.
I just kind of, we just kind of connected and I'm very,
Sure.
Okay.
Well, like I said, I'll email her,
Yeah.
find out how she's doing.
yeah.
And then I'll let you know what's
Yeah,
story.
appreciate
And I'll say, oh, can you send me the friend?
Yeah.
Do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Good. Nice meeting.